Hello and welcome to episode 11 of my podcast, Refining Rhetoric. I'm Robert Bortins, your host, and in today's special episodes, I'll be interviewing my wonderful wife, April. I'm so glad she was able to chat with me on the show today about her background as a PE teacher and her experience as a homeschool mom of our 3 children. After that, I'll do a brief recap and unpack some of the tools of learning from our interview as well as current events. And finally, we will end with our classical crypto segment with Will McCreary. So let's get started.
Classical Conversation Studios presents Refining Rhetoric with CEO Robert Bortins, a podcast where faith, business, politics, and classical education meet. Join us as we use the classical tools of rhetoric to seek truth in every arena of life.
Today is my honor to welcome a very special guest to the podcast, my wife, April Bortins. April and I have been married for 8 years and is the mother of our 3 children, Lily, who is 7, Trey, who's 5, and Jonah, who recently turned 2. And I'm excited to talk to her today about her experience as a homeschooling mom and everything she navigates on a regular basis. So welcome, April.
Hello.
Hey, I know our listeners are always asking me how we met. So what's your perspective? How did we meet? And tell a little bit about our courtship.
Well, I'm sure it's different who you ask, but my answer would just probably be the easiest one is that we met through mutual friends after college, living in the same city of Columbia, South Carolina.
So when did you know that I was the one?
Well, let's see, I could be humorous about this. Robert was the first guy I ever dated to take charge of the relationship in terms of knowing that he felt it was serious. So instead of always playing the games of, is this the real thing? Is this not the real thing? Are we going to move forward? He always eased that for me, and it never really felt that it was anything but serious. So that's how I knew he was the one.
Now tell our audience about the time you thought I was going to break up with you and what I actually asked.
Well, I guess that was the one time I didn't think you were serious, huh? So Robert called me and said that he needed to see me because he had something important he wanted to talk about, and I thought he was going to break up with me. So I had just recently bought my first house all on my own, and I was super proud, and I told him, no, you are not coming to my house. We can meet at a social place like a restaurant or something, and we can have this conversation. And he said, I don't think we need to do that. And I was like, you're not going to come here. And he said, I'm not breaking up with you. And I said, oh, okay, then you can come over. So he came over, and I could tell he was nervous. And he said, I should take back a second here. Robert never really told me exactly what the homeschool company of Classical Conversations was. He just told me he was taking over a family business at this point of homeschooling. So he did say, you know that I am going to be taking over my family business, and you do know it's homeschooling. It's a homeschooling business. And I said, yes. And he goes, well, you're a public school teacher. Are you going to be okay with homeschooling? Because if we continue our relationship, you will, and we get married and we have kids, you will have to homeschool. And I started laughing to the point where I was crying because I was just happy, and I thought it was hilarious because this entire time that we were together, I was getting a master's degree to find a way out of teaching, and I didn't know what I was going to do. So he said, are you okay? And I was like, you're like my knight in shining armor. You just completely saved everything that I've been fearing of what I'm going to do with my career and raising a family one day in the future. Yes, I can homeschool. And then we continued.
Yeah, I was kind of nervous. I thought she'd say yes, but I wasn't 100% sure. And I just said that I wanted to homeschool my kids. If that wasn't something that she was comfortable or wanting to do, then we should maybe be friends. But that was a good conversation, and kind of when we started down, a more serious path. Of course, we were already being pretty serious. But how long did you teach in public school?
Technically 8.5 years. I was hired mid-year in December in Ohio for a school in Lancaster, South Carolina. The teacher just walked out, and now most people would have been like, what are you doing? I got a phone call in December on my mom's birthday. I'll never forget it. Asking if I could take the job. I thought it was a long substitute position, long-term substitute, but they wanted to hire me right away. So it was about a 3-day interview process over the phone. I never went to the school, never met anybody. I accepted the job, bought a new car, and drove to South Carolina. And that's how I started my first half year. That went very well. And I stayed at that school for a couple more years. So I did a couple years there, ended up in Columbia, South Carolina, teaching at a different school district. So overall, 8.5 years, but they counted it as 9 technically.
Okay, so you taught 9 years, middle school the whole time?
Middle school the whole time. So 6th, 7th, and 8th grade, female only. But I was at a normal public school. It's just my teaching is physical education. So the middle school years, you have a male teacher and you have a female teacher.
Now, during this time, of course, when you were going back to get your master's, I was going and sitting in essentials and foundations and working on my paragraphs and my dress ups with Andrew Pudawa. Well, not with Andrew Pudawa exactly, but with IAW, his curriculum. And you were writing 10-page, 20-page, 50-page master papers. But I think you probably got better grades than I did.
You think? Just kidding.
All right. So when you were a school teacher, I remember one of the things that you had, you're teaching middle school girls, and you guys got a special grant from the Federal Department of Education. Can you tell them a little bit about that process and how the school let you know about this grant and about that?
Yeah, so this was the beginning to the end of my career, as I like to say. So I'm not sure where the grant came from. We were never really given much information of how we received the grant. However, we did get an email, and the entire school district PE teachers from K through 12 were asked to go to one of the high school's gyms and meet at a certain time. So we didn't know what was going on. So you had every physical education teacher within the district, and they basically, I would say drop a bomb, because in my book, that was the end of my career. But they told us that they received a grant. They applied for a grant and they received a grant for the entire school district's PE or physical education program to have heart rate monitors for every student to be worn during the class.
Yeah, heart rate monitors. And how long are the classes, and how long does it take to put the heart rate monitors on and off?
So the average number of students you have in a class per roster is 36. So my student roster was 36 kids, and the male teacher's roster was around 36 kids. And we had 6 classes a day, and we taught either together co-ed or we taught separate units. So one would be outside, one would be inside the gym. But most of the time we were together. So here's the tricky part. You asked about how long the classes were. So you had 2 classes of 36 kids, and the class was about 38 minutes long. So you had to get the state standards for physical education in South Carolina are that you do have to change clothes. So they had to change into a different attire and put on a heart rate monitor and get the watch functioning and receive their class of physical education and physical activity with this heart rate monitor on during that time. Then they had to change their clothes, take the heart rate monitor off, and put it away correctly as well.
Now, they were graded on their heart rate. Is that accurate?
As accurate as it can be. The specifics to the grant asked us for the statistics of the child for the average heart rate zone for that age. However, each school kind of did their different thing with it. Our school, they wanted us to use the heart rate monitors, statistics to grade the child. How long were they in the zone within the time of the class? And the heart rate monitors were set up to where if you were over your heart rate zone, the watch would beep at you to tell you that you're in danger, so to say. And our schools and what we were taught in this grant program was that the child had to sit down if the heart rate monitor was telling them that they're overexerting themselves.
The heart rate. So if you're an athlete, your resting heart rate's a little lower than someone who may be out of shape. Is that accurate?
Correct.
So you also taught track in high school, and some of the middle school students trained with the high school team because there wasn't a middle school team. So in this 38 minutes, maybe 20 of it, which is actual PE, after they get the heart rate monitors on and off, were the athletes able to get in that heart rate zone?
So that was the frustrating part. As Robert mentioned, I was one of the high school's head track and field coach as well as the head cross country coach. Um, and in the state of South Carolina, if the middle school did not offer the sport in the middle school, they could, as a seventh and eighth grader, perform that sport for their zoned high school. So my school, my middle school that I taught at, was zoned for the same high school that I coached at. And a lot of my athletes that were cross country and track runners wanted to be in their coach's PE class because it was fun. So they were, and they were failing my class in accordance to the heart rate zones because they could not get their heart rate up high enough to be in the zone within a 20-minute average time because they were so fit. And when I say so fit, in terms of that, how fit can you be? Just to give you an example, some of these students for cross country were leaving school, coming to my practice and running an 8-mile run. So then you had the opposite, where you had students who, within the standards of South Carolina, were considered obese or overweight, who were getting an A+++ because they could do 1 or 2 warm-up laps of walking or jogging, and their heart rate was over the zone, telling them to sit out.
So basically, we recognize that there's always some biological issues that maybe some people have, but relatively normal, healthy students who could benefit from exercise were told that it was dangerous and they needed to sit down. And the students that were overachievers, athletes, were failing PE because of the state or really your school and how they decided to implement these standards.
Yeah, there's a bigger picture to that, right? So, as their specific PE teacher, I don't think anyone told them that, being out of your heart rate zone meant you were in danger. However, I think the message being sent was that you are in danger. So, for me, as their teacher, I saw this as a problem because, as you and I both know, and many people out there know, that your heart is a muscle, and in order to get it stronger, you do need to exercise your muscle. And there is a heart rate zone fit for you for where you are, but you can't take a class of 36 students times 6 different classes and have that work for every student child in that class. So that was the problem. Now, moving forward with that and your question, I saw this and it really concerned me because I felt that the girls were learning that they were in danger and shouldn't exercise when the number one thing they needed for their health was to learn to exercise. So I decided that if they weren't going to learn about physical education and the necessity of using their heart as a muscle to become stronger, that I would teach them through written work. So if their heart rate monitor was beeping loudly and they were told to sit on the bleachers waiting for class to be dismissed or for their heart rate monitor to stop beeping, I'd give them a written assignment to help them learn the truth and the facts about exercise and their health. And that led to me getting my hand slapped because I was not allowed to give any handwritten assignments or homework to a physical education student.
So bottom line is the students that could benefit the most from PE class were told to sit down, and then they weren't able to actually learn anything about it other than if their heart rate got too high that they shouldn't continue to exercise. And of course, that kind of would obviously kind of make you mad, and especially as a teacher who's educated to do this. So what's it been like becoming a Bortins? Do people have certain expectations of what you may or may know about classical education and homeschooling?
Yeah, how is it being a Bortins? It's wonderful. But I do think that people who don't know me kind of put me in the bubble of things they think about me. I don't think many people knew that I was a certified physical education or public school teacher. I think one of the big things for me was that I took a step back. As soon as Robert and I got married, I changed my last name to Bortins on Facebook and got like 1,000 Facebook requests, and that's when I took my step back because I looked at you and Robert, and I said, how do you know these people? And you looked at me and said I should have warned you not to do that. And so that was my first, oh no, what did I do? But I think I learned that there is a judgment or a socialization that might be there with having that last name and not knowing the person first. And I really, really wanted to be a true first time homeschool mom, just like so many other homeschool moms out there, and walk the experience from the beginning to the end without ever becoming an expert first or learning the material or studying it. I wanted to really do it from nothing to everything like everyone else.
So when you married me, you didn't absorb Lee's 40 years of homeschooling experience.
No, no, I didn't. Nor did I absorb any of your essentials classes of your paragraphs while I was working on my master's degree.
As parents and we're raising 3 kids, what are some of the joys of homeschooling that you've seen? And then what are some of the maybe challenges that you've overcome?
I think the biggest challenge is, like I said, I had 6 classes of 36 students a day. And I went from that number down to right now 2. And I told Robert my biggest fear when we were getting close to homeschooling is that I said, you do it first. I'll learn from you. Because, I not only taught where I did teach and with the amount of students I taught in high poverty schools, so Title I schools. So children who really needed a mentor and a little bit more than just a teacher and guidance. And with that came some bad behavior and consequences and disciplinary actions needed to be met. And so my biggest fear was that I went from all of those students down to 2. And because of what I had to do for disciplinary consequences and really mentoring these students to make choices and learn life lessons, that I would be overbearing and overpowering and too military disciplinary with my own kids. So that was my biggest fear. The highest outcome happiness I see is just when it clicks. And I have to say, when you have your kids and you're teaching them every subject, you're able to see what their strengths are, what their weaknesses are, how you guys work together in terms of a team as parent/teacher and student. So for example, my middle son, he has a hard time reading, but he actually doesn't have a hard time reading. Him and I just don't click in the way that I teach him to read. However, I asked my husband to try, and their communication and their ability is much better. So it's great that you can tune into little things like that. And instead of having 34 other students around you that need that attention too, you wouldn't really be able to tune in.
Mm-hmm. Do you do all the things that are out there, or are you a minimalist, or how do you approach the foundation's work and the outside opportunities?
Well, when I began my first year going in, I thought I was a overachiever. I thought I was doing everything I was supposed to. I planned the school year just like I was taught to do as a public school teacher. So in the summer, I took my little binder and I pretty much treated it as if when I was a teacher being called into teacher meetings to begin the school year, but it was just me. So I looked at the full curriculum. I planned out the full school year. I copied all the handwritten assignments, all the worksheets, did all that, had it all ready in my binder. In the meantime, you just stared at me, Robert, and you didn't say a word. And I just kept going, and school started. I thought I had it, and I could tell Lily was getting overwhelmed and not having fun. And about 8 weeks in, I said, no more. And I threw away my binder. And I remember you laughed at me. And I said, what are you laughing at? He's like, I knew this was going to happen. And I said, well, why didn't you tell me? And you said, I had a feeling you would just have to learn on your own. So now I'm a minimalist. And I think I'm a happy medium minimalist. I do the necessities. And if I see that a child is really in tune, one of my own children are really in tune with a specific topic, we go and look for extra books or extra assignments or stuff like that. And I will say that my kids have to earn TV and electronic time, and that's usually how I do some extra stuff as well. So I would say a minimalist, I guess.
Yeah, what was the biggest change from going to 1 student homeschooling to 2 this year?
This year specifically?
Or just, well, yeah, it's because Trey's first year in CC.
Yeah. So Just having Lily was easy after I figured out that issue of trying to do too much. To be honest, the hardest thing I had was the memory work was easy because they both did the same thing. The hardest thing I had was figuring out how do I have a baby? As you said, we have a 2-year-old. So, how do I have a baby who needs my attention and two different students where I have to teach them reading, handwriting, all the other on top of memory work, as well as doing all the things. And once I figured that out, it was easy. But that was the hardest thing was figuring out how I could be the best teacher to both of them doing two different levels at a time.
So what practically does that mean? Like what were you able to implement or what did you change?
So what I noticed was that Lily and Trey, obviously at different levels of their homeschooling in terms of the years they've been doing it, Trey pretty much has all of the memory work already there from just listening to Lily do it for a couple of years. And we love doing that together. So that's what we do together. We do memory work together. And then in terms of their math and handwriting, reading, all the extras that we so called do, Jonah wanted to be a part of it. So at first, we sat him at the table with us, and that went well. He would color. But as you know, a child who is, well, at that time, less than two, only has an attention span for so long. So then it was finding him Play Doh or doing something, which was exhausting for me. And then I realized that instead of having both kids at the table trying to do the topics together and Jonah needing my attention and getting angry because he wasn't getting any attention, I asked Lily to just go second and let me focus on Trey and her have some time alone and play with Jonah. And it worked. So then when Trey was done, Lily would come sit at the table and Trey would play with Jonah. And it was great to see their relationships build the way that Jonah plays with Trey. They're the builders. So they get their Legos, they get their little toolboxes and they build things together. And Lily and Jonah play by building forts and playing hide and seek. And she'll walk them around and show them things and say what they are. And it just dawned on me is that works for us. And it's also very natural and beautiful at the same time. Each kid gets their own sibling time alone too.
Now, what does your average school day look like? I know it's probably different by, if it's cold outside or rainy or warm, but is it up at 6 a.m. and memory work for 4 hours and then lunch and then chores or what's it look like?
Well, every day is different, depending on how the morning starts. But I would say normal, like if I don't have any appointments that day, normal would be wake up and I give them until about 9 o'clock is usually when we start school. But we do like to go outside first, like you said, depending on the weather. We like to go outside and get our energy out. Jonah usually goes down for nap around 10:30. So we like to get some of his energy out so he's nice and tired and takes a really good nap for us. And we really tune in during his nap time to get some of our school done. And then we're ready for him when he wakes up to play, play, play again. So I would say 9 o'clock we start, and we do start with the handwriting, reading, math kind of curriculum. Normally we do math first. I think it's great to do that topic with a fresh brain instead of a tired brain, so to say. And then we move forward. Lily will play Trey first, like I stated before. And then right after that, they have snack time, which usually is about 10:30. So they eat a snack while I'm putting Jonah to nap. When I come back down from putting Jonah to nap, we do our memory work. And then after memory work, they get to do whatever they want for 30 minutes. If they choose electronic time, piano, go back outside. Lily wants to craft with me. Trey wants to build Legos. It's different every day. They get about a 30-minute break again, and then we do our memory work. And then for memory work, we finish around lunchtime. We eat lunch, and then the day goes on.
And then I come home from work and mess everything up.
Yes. No, it's actually kind of true, though. No.
That's good. And then we have a pretty standard bedtime around 7:30 or so for Jonah, and then around 8 it's summer spring season, so it's been slipping to about 8:30 now.
And it's really important for me to back away when you're home because they really, really love daddy time. I call Robert Disney Dad because he's so fun, and I'm the one that's always the one doing the not so fun stuff. So
yeah, we've been going outside and building a garden together and play on the swing set. And Lily's very athletic, so she likes to do sports stuff. And Jonah's all into building stuff, so he likes to take hammer and nails and um, give April almost a heart attack because looks is very dangerous. Walking around like a 1.5-year-old with that stuff in his hands. And then, yeah, Trey just likes to be outside. So exploring and climbing all in our backyard, just like little boys like to do. So yeah, it's a lot of fun raising our children together with you, April. Thank you. When you're stressed out, or what do you do for just for your mom time? Like, what are some hobbies that you have, and what are some different things you like to do?
Well, I'm a person of a lot of traits, I guess, hobbies. I was very lucky to grow up with my dad's mom, who we called Nana. Growing up, was a very hands-on, crafty person, and she taught me all of her craft skills. So I have been crafting and doing all those things since I was little, around 6 or 7. And I would say that's one of my biggest hobbies. I crochet, I knit. It's a great stress reliever. It really intunes you with your mind as you're doing it. It calms you. So that's one of the things I do. I was also an athlete from the age of 18 months old all the way through college. I ran track and field. I was a sprinter in collegiate Division One, and then, as I said, I coached after that. So um, exercise, athletics, all that stuff, sports. My master's degree is actually in athletic administration. Love that. It's kind of my runaway kind of thing that I like to do for myself, is get in tune with sports and the world of sports. And then I am actually also a certified makeup artist. I was a gymnast for many years, and I did the makeup for my gymnastics team as the other girl did the hair. So all of those things that I used to do as a child kind of still followed me to adulthood.
Hmm. If people want to connect with you on social media, what's the best place to do that?
My business page would be Beauty by Bortins. And Lily, my oldest daughter, who is 7, is now actually starting to get involved with that, with crafting. She helps me design earrings and pick out colors and make hair bows and all the things. So that's why it's Beauty by Bortins, because it's actually Lily and I together.
Yes, great to watch you two work together and really pick up all these skills that you have. It's a lot of fun to watch. What are some things you would say to a new homeschooler who might be either wrapping up their first year, or maybe even maybe just start halfway through this year? What encouragement would you have for them?
Oh gosh, I guess just take it all in. I know in the moment and the time that you're doing it, it seems overwhelming. And then you hit that last week of school, and it's a different feeling. You kind of feel relieved that it's over, and then it takes you a couple weeks, and then you kind of miss it. And you miss it because of that community. Your kids have immediate friends that you see at least once a week, and that routine kind of goes away. And I would have to say, just make sure you remember that that community is also your village. So maintain that relationship with them throughout the summer. Know that they're there for anything. I know that there was a lot that I had to learn differently from what I was taught as a teacher, as a public school teacher, and I don't know where I would be without having the people that I had in my community. So,
That's great. And as you look at the world around us, and of course we've had COVID and all sorts of other crazy things going on. Like, what are some things that you're doing to help raise your children in the way that God would have them want raised? And what are some things that you're trying to instill in them to be able to deal with the world that we have in front of us?
that is a tough question, Robert. I think really for me, I want my kids to be kids. I don't want that pressure for them. I don't want them to see things that could be fearful to them that they don't even need to know about, where we don't have all the true facts, or facts being hidden from us, or stuff that we as adults don't even know the real truth about. And I just want them to know that when they walk their path in this world, that they're grounded through Jesus Christ, and just take that path, that they know where they're supposed to be and feel in tune with that.
Mm, that's great. Well, thanks so much for coming on my podcast today, and remind everyone one more time where they can connect with you on social media.
So you could, a lot of you are already my friends on Facebook at April Bortins. That's my normal page. And then my business page is Beauty by Bortins.
Is that on Facebook and Instagram?
Instagram is Beauty by Bortins, as well as on Facebook as the business page. And then I'm just April Bortins as me, myself, and I.
All right. Well, thank you for coming on the show today.
Thank you.
Here at Classical Conversations, we love to teach you the 15 tools of learning, and we do that through our classical recap. And it really introduces the ideas of the trivium and how we use them in our real lives. And so first, we're going to talk about the 5 core habits of grammar, the repetition that builds knowledge. And the 5 core habits of grammar is what we focus on in our Foundations program. And one of those tools is the tool of attending. And April was able to use the tool of attending back in her public school teaching days as she observed her students. She took what she noticed about their behaviors and the way they responded to the heart rate monitors and was able to adapt her teaching style to better serve them. In other words, she saw what wasn't working and changed it up to make sure that the students were learning what they ought to be learning in a PE class. In the 5 common topics of dialectic, the questions that develop understanding, we have the tool of testimony. And I hope getting to hear April's perspective on homeschooling and learning to classically educate has been encouraging to you all. Of course, when April was sharing her heart with us, she was giving her testimony, which is one of the 5 common topics of dialectic. And of course, I think all of you kind of understand now that we are homeschooling moms and dads, just like you, trying to figure this out one kid at a time with 3 kids all at once. And in the 5 canons of rhetoric, the artifacts that demonstrate wisdom, the tool of style. I love getting to hear how different couples meet, and I hope you all enjoyed hearing April share her side of our story. And April used the tool of style to describe what she remembered from that season of our lives. Next, let's practice these 15 tools of learning with current events. We'll look at the topic of Roe v. Wade. This is a 2-part discussion. The first part, which you can hear on my previous podcast, and that was approaching the issue from a classical and constitutional perspective and what questions we may ask. I interviewed Mike Ferris on the Dobbs case, and we are doing part 2 right now of our Sanctity of Life segment. And this part 2 is approaching it from a biblical perspective and what questions we may ask. From the 5 core habits in storytelling, we may want to go back and read Genesis 1 and 2, see what the inerrant word of God says about his creation, man and woman, and some of our roles. In the 5 common topics of dialectic testimony, we were going to want to see what the Bible says about children, mothers, families, and babies. Some of those verses that may be of interest to you are Ecclesiastes 11:5, where the Lord talks about how he formed the body in the mother's womb. Psalm 127, 3-5, children are a heritage from the Lord, offspring a reward from him. Jeremiah 1:5, before I formed you in the womb, I knew you. Psalm 139, 13-16, you created my inmost being, you knit me together in my mother's womb. And Luke 1:44, as soon as the sound of your greeting reached my ear, the baby in my womb leaped for joy. And of course, that's John the Baptist, who prepared the way for Jesus while he was still a fetus, while he was still in his mother's womb. And we'll want to do a comparison in circumstances to see what the Bible says about shedding innocent blood. And in Deuteronomy 27:25 says, cursed be anyone who takes a bribe to shed innocent blood, and the people shall say, Amen. You may have heard in the news that some companies are offering their employees financial incentives to travel to other states in order to abort their child. In other words, they don't want their workplace to be interrupted, and so they'll pay you to kill your own child. Psalm 106:38, They poured out innocent blood, the blood of their sons and daughters, whom they sacrificed to the idols of Canaan, and the land was polluted with blood. And in the 5 canons of rhetoric, arrangement, sorting into organized thought. So while we have some of these Bible verses that are a good place for you to start, it is important that we look at the whole Bible. We look at the whole story because it is a redemptive story. And we see the Old Testament pointing to the need of a Redeemer. And in the New Testament, Jesus coming and dying for our sins. And so while we need to have a biblical worldview on a post-U.S. Roe versus Wade, we also need to think about how we express ourselves and how we take care of the hurting and needy. So the last time I challenged you to go find out more about your local pro-life pregnancy center. If you haven't done that, please do so. Also, considering talking to your pastor and church about what can be done locally to support moms in your area who may need that love of Christ and be in a dire situation. The overturning versus Roe v. Wade is going to be an opportunity for us to show God's love to a hurting world. I hope you're enjoying this episode of Refining Rhetoric, and something that I enjoy doing with my son Trey and one day with Jonah is going to our local Trail Life troop. Trail Life USA is a Christ-centered, outdoor-based discipleship opportunity for boys and young men from kindergarten through 12th grade. By joining a Trail Life USA troop in your area, your son will discover timeless biblical values within a group of peers and mentors. They've also got some stuff for dads as well. But your son will develop lasting relationships, experience character growth, serve their local community, acquire leadership skills, explore the outdoors, and gain practical skills like camping, emergency first aid, outdoor cooking, and more. With over 39,000 members and 900 troops across all 50 states, there's bound to be a Trail Life USA troop near you. It's also a great opportunity for homeschool dads looking for a way to spend time and instill values in their son while doing activities together. That's one of the reasons why I do it with my son. So to learn more, visit traillifeusa.com/homeschool. That's traillifeusa.com/homeschool to learn more. Now back to our regularly scheduled podcast.
Welcome. This is Classical Crypto with Will. Today's goal is to leave you with a basic understanding of what a DeFi wallet is. Some of you probably have a DeFi wallet, and others are wondering what in the world a DeFi wallet is. Don't be too scared. It's probably a little bit more simple than what you might imagine. Just as a physical wallet or purse contains money, the dollar, a DeFi wallet holds cryptocurrency once purchased from an exchange. In our last episode of Classical Crypto, we talked about what exchanges are, how you can purchase cryptocurrency. Well, once purchased, then what? Where do you house your crypto? What keeps it from getting stolen? Where can you view it? Where can you check its value? All of that happens on a DeFi wallet. Now, some DeFi wallets are built directly into the exchange, but others like MetaMask and many, many others stand alone. For beginners, I would recommend using the basic Coinbase wallet or, again, MetaMask. Now, let's talk about some components of a DeFi wallet setup and management. And remember, your wallet holds your crypto. It's the purse strings, it's the vault. DeFi finance is not FDIC insured. Most of us prefer it that way. Crypto is mainly a self-sovereign landscape, meaning I, the owner of my DeFi wallet, am solely responsible for its well-being and to maintain the keys or passwords to get into that said wallet. Most DeFi wallets are protected by what is known as word keys. For example, MetaMask is protected by a 12-word key combination. When you set up that wallet for the first time, those 12 words are given to you. This is your access key. I recommend you write those words down physically, have 2 copies. Don't take a screenshot of your 12-word key. If a hacker gets a hold of your phone or computer and finds a digital representation of your password or your word key, you're in big trouble. Your funds could get stolen. So keep 2 physical copies in 2 separate locations. That sounds like a lot, but I promise you it's not that hard. Okay, let's touch on another component. Cryptocurrency is code. It's software at the heart of it. The beautiful thing about crypto tokens is that they can live on a hot or cold wallet. What's the difference between a hot or cold wallet? Well, a hot wallet is connected to the internet. It's quote unquote hot. It's easier to trade, convert, exchange currency this way, although it's more prone to attacks or hacks because it's online. To sum it up, hot wallets are very convenient, though they're a little less secure than cold wallets. And I don't want to scare you because it's very rare that someone, especially an individual, can get their cryptocurrency hacked and stolen from them. It happens. It's very, very rare. Now, if you're a large institution, you have to take more precautions if you have wallets that are quote unquote hot or online. Cold wallets live offline. Cold wallets are typically physical drives that one could put in a safe or a safety deposit box. Cold wallets can temporarily be brought online to load up with crypto, but then they're disconnected and they live 99.9% of the time offline. This means they can't be hacked or tampered with. It's a great store of value, although it's not convenient, and the crypto on that hard drive cannot be utilized, traded, or exchanged when offline. The functions of wallets are pretty obvious. One investor might want to load up a cold wallet with crypto and wait 8 years and collect an ROI from it. It's not an exciting strategy, but it works and it's safe. The flip side of that is a hot wallet that lives online. It can actively be used for trading, exchanging, leveraging, lending, etc. Thanks for listening to today's intro to DeFi wallets on Classical Crypto with Will. I hope you learned something. Join me next time. We're going to talk about staking pools.
Thank you for tuning in today's episode. I hope you enjoyed it as much as I did. Please share this with a friend and be sure to check out future episodes as we continue to practice the 15 tools of learning. God bless and have a great day.